Welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time tuning in, I ask you to do three things: like, comment, and subscribe. I'll also ask you to hit the notification bell so you're notified every time I upload a video. The reason why I ask you to like, comment, and subscribe is because the more you interact with this video, the more YouTube will promote this video, and this will help us get the gospel of Jesus Christ worldwide. Happy Thursday. I have a couple of questions to ask you. My first question is, how many of us need encouragement right now? My second question is, how many of us tend to forget the goodness of God? And my third question is, how many of us are on the verge of giving up? Let me submit to you, remember his deeds. Remember God's faithfulness. Remind yourself how he was faithful in your past. Remind yourself how he's faithful in your present. And remind yourself that he will be faithful in your future. Remember his deeds. Psalm 77 verse 11 to 12 says, I will remember the deeds of the Lord. Yes, I will remember your miracles of long ago. I will consider all your works and meditate on all your mighty deeds. Remember the deeds of the Lord. In the good times, remember the deeds of the Lord. In the bad times, remember the deeds of the Lord. In the ugly times, remember the deeds of the Lord. In the desperate times and in the dark times, remember the deeds of the Lord. If God never failed, why would he start with you? I'll say that one more time. If God has never failed, why would he start with you? So let me encourage you right now. He won't fail you. He won't leave you. He won't forsake you. So remember the goodness of the Lord that you have seen in the land of the living. Remember his deeds. Psalm 124 verse 2 to 5 says, if the Lord had not been on our side, when people attacked us, they would have swallowed us up alive when their anger flared against us. The flood would have engulfed us. The torrent would have swept over us. The raging waters would have swept us away. But look at the goodness of God in verse 6. Verse 6 says, praise be the Lord, who has not let us be torn by their teeth. We have escaped like a bird from the fowler's snare. The snare has been broken. We have escaped. Our help is in the name of the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. Remember his good deeds. In Joshua chapter 4, this is exactly what Joshua wanted the children of Israel to do. The children of Israel was on the brink of entering the promised land, and they were in the middle of the river Jordan on dry ground because God supernaturally stopped the flow of the river. And look what Joshua tells them to do in verse 4. So Joshua called together the 12 men he had appointed from the Israelites, one from each tribe, and said to them, go over before the ark of the Lord your God in the middle of the Jordan. Each of you is to take up a stone on his shoulder, according to the number of tribes of the Israelites, to serve as a sign among you. In the future, when your children ask you, what do these stones mean? Tell them that the flow of the Jordan was cut off before the ark of the covenant of the Lord. When it crossed the Jordan, the waters of the Jordan were cut off. These stones are to be a memorial to the people of Israel forever. It's time for us to get our stones. What did the stones mean? The stones just represent our testimony. So in other words, it's time to remind ourselves of our testimony. It's time to remind ourselves of God's protection. It is time to remind ourselves of God's provision. It is time to remind ourselves of God's deliverance. Get your stone, or in other words, get your testimony. Joshua chapter 4 verse 8 to 9 says, so the Israelites did as Joshua commanded them. They took 12 stones from the middle of the Jordan, according to the number of tribes of the Israelites, as the Lord had told Joshua, and they carried them over with them to their camp, where they put them down. Joshua set up the 12 stones that had been in the middle of the Jordan at the spot where the priests who carried the Ark of the Covenant had stood, and they are there to this day. Look at where they got the stones. They got the stones from the middle of the river Jordan, in the middle of the difficulty, in the middle of the uncertainty, in the middle of the mess. Remember your whole testimony, not the edited version of your testimony. I'm going to say that one more time. Remember your whole testimony and not the edited version of your testimony. Because sometimes when we get around certain people, we like to water down our testimony. But I'm here to tell you right now that you need to share your whole testimony. It seems like the longer ago our testimony was, the more edited our testimony becomes. Can I encourage you? Remember your raw testimony. I'm going to say that one more time. Remember your raw testimony. Remember how God kept you safe from all your mistakes and all your decisions. Do not polish your testimony, because when you do that, you can downplay the glory that belongs to God. If we go down to verse 15 of Joshua chapter 4, it says, Then the Lord said to Joshua, Command the priests carrying the ark of the covenant law to come out of the Jordan. So Joshua commanded the priests, come out of the Jordan. And the priests came out of the river carrying the ark of the covenant of the Lord. No sooner had they set their feet on dry ground than the waters of the Jordan returned to its place and ran at flood stage as before. How many of us can just look back in our lives and become so grateful? Because the thing that was designed to take us out could not, because God was fighting for us. How many of us can just look back and say, man, it was not for God on our side? The devil cannot take you out, because God is not done with you yet. The devil can throw everything he has at you. But if God is for you, then who can be against you? I'll say that one more time. If God is for you, then who can be against you? If we continue to verse 19, it says, On the 10th day of the first month, the people went from the Jordan and camped at Gilgad on the eastern border of Jericho. And Joshua set up at Gilgad the 12 stones they had taken out of the Jordan. He said to the Israelites, In the future, when your descendants ask their parents, What do these stones mean? Tell them, Israel crossed the Jordan on dry ground. For the Lord your God dried up the Jordan before you until you had crossed over. The Lord your God did to the Jordan what he had done to the Red Sea, when he dried it up before us until we had crossed over. He did this so that all people of the earth might know that the hand of the Lord is powerful. I'm going to say that one more time. He did this so that all the peoples of the earth might know that the hand of the Lord is powerful. The hand of the Lord is powerful to heal you from cancer. The hand of the Lord is powerful to provide for you. The hand of the Lord is powerful to put you in a family. That is the hand of the Lord. The hand of the Lord is powerful. And then it continues and says, and so that you might always fear the Lord your God. So gather your stones. Gather your testimony. Frame that doctor's report that said you don't have 3 months to live, but now they can't find a trace of the disease. Frame that overdue bill that says that you're going to get kicked out of your house, but somehow God miraculously paid off the bill. Frame that rejection letter that led to God opening doors that you didn't even know existed. Frame those things. Gather your stones. Remember your testimony. Gather your testimony that shows that God still delivers. Gather your testimony that shows that God still heals. Gather your testimony that shows that God still restores. Gather your testimony that shows that God still protects. Gather your testimony that shows that God still transforms. Gather your testimony, because if you don't gather and you don't show your testimony, your descendants will forget that there's a God that sits in heaven. They will forget about God who delivers. They will forget about the God that heals. They will forget about the God that restores, that elevates. They will forget about the God that sets the captives free. So don't let them forget about that God, because you choose not to gather your testimony and share it with them. If you don't believe me, if you don't believe that they will forget about the Lord your God, look what happens in Judges chapter 2. Verse 6 to 8 says, After Joshua had dismissed the Israelites, they went to take possession of the land, each to their own inheritance. The people served the Lord throughout the lifetime of Joshua and of the elders who outlived him, and who had seen all the great things the Lord had done for Israel. Joshua, son of Nun, the servant of the Lord, died at the age of 110. Let us skip down to verse 10. Verse 10 says, After the whole generation had been gathered to their ancestors, which just means after they passed away, after they died, another generation grew up, who knew neither the Lord nor what he had done for Israel. Then the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord and served the Baals. How did this happen? How did this happen? How did they forget about the Lord who stopped the Red Sea? How did they forget about the Lord who stopped the River Jordan? Well, in Joshua chapter 4, verse 21 and 24, as we read before, it says, Joshua said to the Israelites, in the future, when your descendants ask their parents, what do these stones mean? Tell them, Israel crossed the Jordan on dry ground. For the Lord your God dried up the Jordan before you until you had crossed over. The Lord your God did to the Jordan at what he had done in the Red Sea, when he dried it up before us until we had crossed over. He did this so that all the peoples of the earth might know that the hand of the Lord is powerful, and so that you might always fear the Lord your God. I believe that the generation before them stopped talking about the testimony. They stopped taking them to the stones which represent the testimony of the Israelites. And I believe what happened was that since they stopped talking about it, they did not realize there's a God in heaven. Because in Judges chapter 2, verse 10, it says, after that whole generation had been gathered to their ancestors, another generation grew up who neither knew the Lord nor what he had done for Israel. The reason why they didn't know is because no one told them about it. So please, I implore you, never stop talking about the goodness of God. Never stop talking about the miracles he has done in your life. Never stop talking about your testimony. Never stop. Because Revelation chapter 12 verse 11 says, we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. So remember God's deeds and share your testimony. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. I upload every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, and I don't want you to miss out on any of the content coming from this channel. If you have any prayer requests, put in the comment section below. If you feel led to support the ministry, the give information is in the description box below. I love you, God bless you, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching this video. If you want more content, subscribe over here and watch the next video over there. God bless you.